Alright, guys, so, yesterday when I did my fanfiction idea that was voted upon by you guys, I talked about there was another one, and I had a few ideas for it, and I was like, you know what? I have enough ideas for it, I will do it as its own story. So, for this, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about the doom that came to Republic City. This is an interesting story because it's a Legend of Korra Universal Monster crossover. Yeah, it's going to make sense in a second. So, here we go. So, this is set shortly after Ruins of the Empire, and Kuvira reveals to Korra that there was a... She's like, look, guys, I don't mind that you guys have been really cool with me, as of late. Like, you know, I've been helping take out one of my renegade generals, but there's something else, and we lost track of it. And they're like, what do you mean we lost track of something? And Kuvira explains that there was a division she put in the Earth Empire of the brightest minds outside of Varric. These guys were like... It wasn't like with Varric and their other ones building the war machines. It was more that these were guys who were working on fringe science. And Kuvira's whole logic was, if I was to go to war with, like, the air nations or, you know, the fire nation, she was more concerned about going to war with if she knew... Like, Kuvira basically explains, I knew when I moved into Republic City that I'd have to fight the United Force. I would probably have to fight the United Forces. I would even have to contend with the North-South water tribes and the Fire Nation backing if I moved into Republic City and declared myself Empress. And they're like, yeah, you're right. You probably would have to contend with all of those forces marching into it. So... She knew that she had to take on... She wanted to fight them because she knew she couldn't fight, like, 3 armies at once. 4 armies, technically. Or even you could say with the air nomads, like, basically 5 different armies coming after her. So she needed alternative sources if her Colossus failed, if her giant robot failed, because she was like, I can only make the one, and if that one got taken out, I needed other alternative sources, and Korra's like, just shut up and tell us what alternative sources you went to. And basically Kuvira explains that I basically went to scientists and occultists who trained in, like, learning about mixing science with spirit energy. That's where I got the idea for the cannon for the Colossus. And that was really the only thing I needed, because those guys were really fucking weird, and I basically I shelved them. And, yeah, and they're like, well, what did you have in mind for other things? And they're like, you gotta find these scientists right now, because I put them on some weird shit, and they got really into it and even scared me. So, later that day... Mako and Bolin, who are Republic City officers, are doing their rounds, and they actually discover that there's been an attack on a business in one of the lower districts. So they go in there, and they find, like, this huge, like, man-wolf creature eating a child, and they instantly engage, and Mako gets bit. Mako gets bit by this thing. Bolin has to stop fighting and pursuing it and take care of his brother. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, there's been reports of an unknown spirit robbing banks. That turns out that, yeah, when they break into Sato Industries, yeah, it turns out that it's a version of this universe's Invisible Man. In here, this version of the Invisible Man was a scientist who was mixing who was experimenting on spirits and how to use their invisibility to make invisible assassins. So he tested it on himself, and now he just couldn't figure out how to bring himself back. So now he has to, like, trying to use Sato industry technology and Varric industry technology to try to find a cure to make himself invisible again. As for the Wolfman creature, that was another creature they basically were using undocumented diseases that they had found throughout the Earth Kingdom. And these were like a form of... They weren't called lycanthropy, but basically it was like lycanthropy, where they would essentially find these creatures that would make humans into lycanthropes. And Kuvira wanted to make them into shock troopers until she saw how dangerous they were. Had them all wiped out, but it looks like one survived. And is now running around in Republic City, feeding on people, eating and possibly turning others into its kind. And if Mako's bit, he needs to go into quarantine right now, because we're dealing with a contagion, and there's another contagion going on in Republic City as well. Because another thing they found was the crypt of a very powerful Jiangshi, our version of Dracula. They were going with the Chinese vampires. This version of Dracula, like I said, is a Jiangshi, who was a warlord who was the son of Qin the Conqueror, the warlord that Avatar Kyoshi slew, and tried to avenge his father, but Kyoshi beat his ass, and he made a pact with dark spirits to never die, and he became an undead lord, and tried to create an army of the undead, but was sealed away by Kyoshi in her final days of life. In fact, Kyoshi was 230 years old. She just basically died, burying this guy. So yeah, the Jiangshi are out. They're making their own little armies. Not to mention, there's a third doctor, a third scientist who is also trying to create undead soldiers, and his experiment killed him and ran off into the sewers. And this is, of course, the Frankenstein Monster. And the monster is actually, fighting. He's actually, he was intelligent. This isn't like Boris Karloff. This is more like the book version of Frankenstein, of the monster, where he's intelligent, and he's capable of speech and whatever. And he took one look at his face, he was horrified, he ran out. And when he heard stories about monster attacks in Republic City, he began to hunt down and kill the vampires and the Jiangshi and werewolves in Republic City in secret. It isn't until Korra finds him, the two do battle, and he's like this hulking mass of dead soldiers, and he can actually earthbend because he's made from dead earthbenders. So, yeah, we have an earthbending Frankenstein monster. And, he's basically harm Avatar. I am a monster made to fight other monsters. I am here to help you. So her and the monster team up. Not only that, there's also another scientist use spirit energy to try to make a new breed of creature of soldier that would be used to fight the Water Tribe. Yes, this is our version of the creature from the Black Lagoon. And it's been stalking people around the piers of Republic City. And the reason why they're all coming to Republic City is because our Jiangshi general, who is known as Yinko, and Yinko is more or less trying to unite all of these creatures and monsters together in order to create a new nation and use Republic City as a new nation of monsters, and then use that as its own little private world, kingdom. So Yinko is our Dracula, and Yinko is trying to get some brides. So the first one he turns Julie, he turns Opal, and he turns Asami all into vampires. Meanwhile, Mako has succumbed to his lycanthropy and becomes the Wolfman. But there's enough of Mako's willpower. I'm actually giving some props to Mako here. Mako's willpower is actually resisting the power of the werewolf that bit him, and he's actually fighting alongside the rest of this makeshift team of now monster hunters, with Korra leading the charge. However, when Yinko begins his attack on Republic City with the legion of monsters that he's assembled, what happens is that during the battle between him and Yinko, her and Yinko, Korra gets bit, and through that, Yinko, she does kill Yinko. She's like, I'm gonna do what Kyoshi couldn't do, and bury your ass, and kill your ass. She stakes him, she puts him out, she bends metal around him to hold him up in a cross, and make him watch as the sun comes up. But she also discovers that, I'm becoming a monster. And she's like, I can't, and she's even like trying to reach out to the sunlight, it burns her instantly. So now she's the first undead avatar. And she, like, Korra brings up, like, I can still feel myself. Like, I'm the new generation of I'm like part of this new generation of vampire. And she tells Tenzin, who, I forgot to mention this, but Tenzin's basically our Van Helsing. Like, he was keeping all these scriptures and whatnot and learning all about it. But basically in here, he's just weapons out, and he becomes our, like, Van Helsing. As for Korra, Asami, she does manage to change back the others, but allows herself to become a vampire again, and Korra becomes Korra basically says, I always knew I'd be the last Avatar, but now I'm the Avatar Eternal. Yeah, I understand that I'm going to be a vampire, but I'm still the Avatar, and I'm still going to whip a lot of ass. And now she has some friends who are going to be immortal with her. She's got the Frankenstein monster. She still has Mako, who's a wolfman. There's also, like, she basically strong arms the creature to join her or die. And now it's like Republic City is a world protected by monsters now. Anyway, so there you go, guys. That is the doom that came to Republic City. You guys tell me in the comments below, what did you guys think of it? Once again, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.